Hello, I'm Mandy Tyson, nurse consultant in contraception and sexual health, and I've worked in sexual health for 20 years now.
And I'm Pam Murgatroyd, and I'm contraception and sexual health nurse advisor, and I've been here since 1996.
So, Mandy and Pam, as health professionals, what kind of reactions do you experience from people who are finding out that they've got an STI?
Well, varied, I'd say. I think you can range from people who expect them and are unsurprised and are quite pragmatic in how they deal with it, right through to people that are absolutely devastated and think they can't have a relationship again, don't they?
And I think as well they come expecting the results to be negative, especially with the urine chlamydia screening. So they just take the test to get something, maybe a free pair of pants or a voucher, and expect it to be negative. And I think them are the ones that find it most difficult with the results.
Yeah, because the majority of infections, you've got no signs or symptoms, so like you say, they're not expecting it, are they? And it's then the shock of, oh, I have got something, and they've got to think about how they're going to deal with it, who they have to tell, when they have to tell them, what implications that might have for them, and worry about reputation and things as well.
That's right, and the thought of what's going to happen for the future.
I think from an emotional point of view, our roles is about trying to get them to see that, you know, they aren't different to other people, they've done nothing wrong, they've had sex, which is a healthy, normal part of life if you choose to have sex, and that sometimes what goes with it, you get an infection, and it's about us trying to support them through realising that this is one of the risks of sex, but we can get you through it. Even with the viral ones, which you can't always make the virus go away, that doesn't mean you can't have relationships in the future.
That's right.
So, I mean, what do you think is the bit that worries them most?
I think the blame culture, and the fact that they think, is it only me who's had this infection, and then they think that everybody knows it's them who may have passed it to somebody else, and in fact it could have been there for a long time, could have been there from the first ever time they've had sex, and it doesn't matter how many partners they've had, whether it be one, whether it be 5, they're still as much at risk, and it's about getting that over to them, that it's not about blame, it's about support and getting the treatment they need.
I'm going to say, because that's really important, isn't it? Because we've looked after people that on the very first occasion they have sex have acquired an infection, and that puts sex in a really bad light for them, and that's a shame, because it is normal, it is healthy sex when you choose to have sex, and so it's about trying to make sure that their experience doesn't make them feel bad forever about it. Because you can get an STI the first time you have sex, you could have 100 partners and never get one.
That's right.
Have you ever had a couple come to you worried about whether you can tell who gave it to who?
I think that is a massive issue repeatedly, isn't it? We get lots of that, and the blame issue is really important to address straight away, because the majority of infections, you'll never know who had it first. All you'll know at that point in time is whoever had the test is positive. And it may be, it's not unusual, is it, where one comes along for the test positive, then because they're the first to find out, it's like, oh my God, it's me that's got it. And then go with their head hung between the legs almost, saying, you know, oh God, it's me, I've given you this one. In actual fact, it could be the other way around. And what's really important is to address that infections can pre-exist in people before they even get together, without signs, without symptoms. And then when one of them's diagnosed, it's a very positive thing, at least they know and they can do something about it, can't they? And I think that's a really important point, Pam, around what they've done and what they haven't done, because you can have real stigma around sexual infections, but there are many conditions you never have to have had penetrative sex for. Things like the viral ones like warts and herpes, it's a skin-to-skin transmission, so you could have had some kind of foreplay that's been quite intimate, but they've never had sex. And people make presumptions then that people are sexually active.
I think we've got to remember then with that, we're talking about oral sex as well, because that is often forgotten. And I think as well from our role, we often are a mediator between couples, because what happens is that we don't know how that person has told the partner that they're living with. We don't know what goes on when they are telling each other. So often they come in and we do some mediation work between them quite often, don't we?
It's good to see them together to get that message across at the same time, isn't it?
And the way you sometimes we do it for them, which you tend to do more, don't you?
Yeah.
How does that work?
I think some people are so afraid that the other person's going to make an assumption or a judgment on them that often I'll say, come back together and we'll see you together if you'd like. And then I can sit and while they're both in the same room reinforce the fact that I don't know who acquired this first. All I know is at the moment we need to treat you both for it because you'll be sharing it. Because then often the person who's first diagnosed thinks if I go home and say that they won't believe me, they'll think I'm making it up. So if they hear it from the professional directly as a couple, then there's more chance that they'll believe it, and then it's less of a tense kind of episode.
I think it's important for people to know that we can as well give them an anonymous text to inform their partner. So if they feel, if it's an ex-partner and they feel like they can't tell that person, that we can do it for them without them ever knowing where they have been linked to. Yeah.
To just send them that generic text, please contact the clinic, we need to discuss a health issue. And if they phone us, we can then explain. We believe you've been in contact with the condition, come and be screened.
And I think on that question about blame, is that young people are encouraged to come and see us for health screening now. So like a part of when they would go to a dentist now every year, every 6 months, is that they're very welcome to come along for a health check, the same way as you would
really
be encouraged to be
now.
checked. Yeah.
And I think all the technologies within the clinics now are advancing now. I mean, soon, if you just want a standard checkup and you've got no symptoms, you won't even be examined, will you?